Hey, everybody. We'll start in about 3 minutes. I'm always in space. We're waiting 2 minutes for it to be 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, which is when I said this would start. So, okay. I'll cover that in my update. Just give me a few minutes, Joe. All right. Okay. It's 2:30 Pacific time. And this is going to be the first of what I'm expecting to do as a regular set of updates pretty much every day on Game of Stakes, where we are, where we're going, what's been happening. So this is our first update, and I'll sort of give you guys an update of sort of where Game of Stakes starts. So we started Game of Stakes Monday night / Tuesday. Tuesday Europe time, Monday night California time, and we got a network that was the largest BFT network ever started. That was able to start successfully. There was a lot of concern that Tendermint was not going to be able to handle 199 validators, that we weren't be able to get liveness with such a large validator set. It was an enormous stress test of the entire system, and the system performed beautifully. And that was probably really the high point of the week, was the successful Game of Stakes network launch. Then about part of the way through the day on Wednesday, we got a network halt. And this is the kind of network halt that we've seen before on testnets. I had been hoping that, the great work that the community had done on Genki 3000 and 3001, all of the simulation testing we'd done, had really sort of worked out all of these state machine bugs in fee distribution and staking and slashing. But we found one that we pretty quickly stumbled into one on Game of Stakes. The main thing that I've been learning from this experience is the number of possible states in the system, of orders of transactions, of sequences, and the potential sort of errors and bugs and vulnerabilities is pretty large. One of the things that was really gratifying, though, is the invariant checker did catch this staking bug immediately and halted the network. And the idea of the invariant checker is it is sort of our last line of defense. The last thing, there's only one thing that I can think of that is really worse than a network halt, and that is an error in computations about rewards, transfers, etc., that sort of affects the supply of digital assets inside the system and isn't caught. And so one of the things that we did is we had to build systems for checking whether or not all of these computations were correct for the simulator. And one of the things that that the development team did is we moved those over and actually let them operate when the chain is running. And so they're the last fallback mechanism in the case of an error, and it's really gratifying to see that work. It gives me an incredible amount of sense of safety and confidence. The next piece of this is, so it turned out to be not that big a deal of a bug to fix. Over the course of the day on Wednesday, we merged a bug fix and planned another network launch. What we were trying to do with this network launch that happened this morning, sort of over the course of the night this morning, was test the mechanism that we intend to use for the early set of upgrades on mainnet for future upgrades on Game of Stakes. And this is the first time that we've ever tested it outside of internal testnets. And this mechanism it exports the state of the entire proof of stake system. It actually exports the entire state of the blockchain as a JSON file, which is very human readable. And then it exports the state of the JSON file in a human readable format, and then it imports them. And what it does is it has this export for height 0 mechanism where it runs fee distribution and basically gets the chain in a state where Tendermint can start it from 0. There is some discussion about modifying Tendermint so it can start at a block height greater than 0. So like you can, for instance, upgrade a chain from block 1000 on the old chain and immediately start at 1001 on the new chain. Tendermint doesn't support that yet, but it is something that we're planning for most likely as a post-launch thing. So that was the first time we've been testing it, and there were some oversights in the conversion process. We'd never really tested it with jailed and slashed validators in the system, and so we missed a couple of values, and that's why the network halted this morning. It was super exciting because it was incredibly gratifying. I think I woke up like 3 hours before the network starts because I was both nervous and excited to come to see this like predetermined time where we set a time in the Genesis file, and when everyone's individual computer clocks hit that time, everyone synchronously starts their networks. And it was amazing. We were able to generate a block in just about a second. And that was awesome and unbelievable. Unfortunately, then immediately found that like the export had not produced a valid export. So that leads us to where we are right now. Where we are right now, sort of the core pieces of where we are right now are, yes, Game of Stakes has been going rockier than I was expecting. And so we're trying to figure out what that is. Yes, the holiday week is coming up. So those are the kinds of the two things. So my point of view on sort of like the core big questions about what we're doing with Game of Stakes is, one is we're going to try and start the network, the Game of Stakes network on tomorrow morning, my time, tomorrow afternoon, your time. And this will probably be the last attempt at starting a network for the holidays. If it works, will be running a Game of Stakes network over the Christmas to New Year's timeframe. If it doesn't, we'll run community testnets and regroup in the new year. My hope is that it works. My expectation is it works. We also had the community set up another community testnet called Genki 4000. I think this process of running both community testnets and the Game of Stakes testnet is incredibly important and valuable. We're most likely going to start this process again because we're going to do a fairly substantial number of pieces of software of sort of improvements to the SDK that are going to be released probably first on a testnet and then upgraded onto Game of Stakes in the new year. That's another big piece of the story. So yes, Game of Stakes will start at 1500 UTC tomorrow, which is 7 a.m. Pacific, just like today's. One of the things that we're aiming for with the Game of Stakes networks is we're really testing the decentralization. We're running Tendermint at the Game of Stakes testnet is going to be goes till got up to over 200 validators in Game of Stakes 4, and I expect it to go up to over to hit the 300 mark in the next one. The other thing is one of the other factors that we ran into with Game of Stakes was we had been very conservative in setting the block size. We'd only set it for 50 kilobytes. Because we just use very standard signatures, we have not yet adopted the fancy BLS signatures that are planned for Ethereum 2.0 in Tendermint yet. The signatures take up linear size to the number of validators. So when you hit 200 validators, you have about 12 to 15 kilobytes of signature data in every block, and that was taking up almost all of the block size. I think the reason why we did that was primarily focused on trying to avoid DDoS attacks immediatay. But my hope is that we get a stable network up on Friday. People are able to start actually testing some attacks and some cartel behavior over the next week if they want. I'm going to keep doing these updates all throughout the holiday week. I'm having a pretty chill holiday time frame. I'm planning on mostly writing. My big plan for the week is both writing software that we need, the remaining software we need to assemble the Genesis block for launch, and writing a Bitcoin Oracle for the SDK. So those are my things. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer questions in the chat. Probably stay on for another 5 minutes or so, and then we can get on with the life. But planning on doing this every day for Game of Stakes. Any questions in the chat? Zaki waits patiently. Okay, then that's all I got for you. Have a good day, guys. Thank you so much to everyone who's been participating in this experiment. We've definitely done some computer science history this week. In some senses, it's been a success. In some senses, it's been a disappointment. And I'm really excited for what we're trying tomorrow. And excited that it works. Feel like we've done quite a bit of QA and research on it this morning, and I think everybody on the engineering side at Tendermint is fairly confident that we'll have a live network by this time tomorrow. So thank you, everyone, and see you tomorrow.